I learned the last time we recorded for Birchbark that that recording in progress does not go on to the recording. So good to know. All right, so I'm going to share screen and we're going to talk a little bit about characterization. And because it's just Christine who showed up today, we're going to talk about characterization if I can find it. Here we go. And then we're going to talk about, I'm going to put in the description on the YouTube channel what we're doing for the writing prompts, but we'll let the people who are watching the recording time and you can follow the writing prompt yourself. It's Zoom says it's quitting and I know it's not. So, okay. You see me and you see my shared screen, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, great. It did this the last time I shared a screen too, so I feel like maybe I need to go update soon. So we're focusing on developing complex characters in Module 6. We have a discussion board this week, so everybody please put your initial post in by Thursday, and then you'll be responding to 2 people. And we're discussing developing complex characters. And if you look at the discussion board expectations, this is something I've been talking a lot about, and I'm almost done grading, I promise, but I've been talking a lot about with people when it comes to character in your own stories, because it's easy to create very one-sided flat characters who are all good or all bad. And so the most interesting thing to do is to think of positive and negative traits. And for you, Christine, your character is, I think she is a little bit complex because she walks up to that door, but then she doesn't open it and she goes outside to deal with herself. And so like, she's experiencing a loss, but she's not responding with hate. So I do think she's pretty complex, right? Because she sees something that really disturbs her. So for most people though, particularly, there's some pretty evil characters and some pretty great characters. And so we should be thinking along the lines of how do you make them have something redeeming if they're awful and something a little unredeeming if they're really good people. And that's what makes people realistic. I mean, I'm always trying to be the best version of myself and I am constantly failing. So we all know that we want to be a certain type of person and we don't end up being that person. Christine and I were just talking about, you know, if I'd only follow the advice I give all of you every single day, I'd be a better writer. And she said with physical training, she'd have been in better shape when she was a physical trainer. So, you know, just keep in mind that your characters will be just as flawed as we are as humans. Okay, and so then you're going to be looking at, for your short paper, Tim O'Brien's Things They Carried, Michael Parker, I think, Stop and Go. And those are the 2 stories. Those are the only ones you can write on this week. So please don't write on anything else. I'm familiar with both stories and they're both really good choices. So just take a look at these 2 stories and talk about what makes the characters complex. In Stop and Go, it's amazing because it's so short, and yet this character is quite complex. And there's a lot to say about both of them. So I recommend you do that. And don't forget to dig outside to look either for maybe some expert source talking on characterization and how characters become complex to back up what you noticed about one of these characters, or be sure you're quoting from the Things They Carried or Stop and Go, depending on what you're choosing, so that you are using the specificity that shows, like, if you're saying, here's a place that Jimmy Cross became complex, then quote it and show it to me. And that's because we want you to read like a writer, meaning that you can see the techniques that O'Brien or Parker uses to create complex characters. So we really want, we being the course designers and me, we really want you to be seeking out outside experts and quoting from the text. And I know that seems so simplistic and that it's something you know, when I grade, you'll see me saying, be great if you brought in an outside expert here. And it's because you're creating common ground. You're trying to say, this is what I mean by characterization, or this is what I mean when a character becomes round, but your reader may not share that same space with you. And if you get an expert and say, this person is representing what I mean, now you have common ground on what the person means. Even if your reader doesn't agree with you, they have to start from the same argumentative position because you've offered the foundation for the argument, right? And then you give us evidence from the text, and how can I disagree? All right, so Christine, do you have any questions about what I've just discussed with characterization?
No questions.
Okay, great. And my expectations about sources and quoting are pretty clear for you anyway? Yep. Great. So for anybody who's watching this short video, if you look in the description of the video, I will put the writing prompt. The writing prompts for this week, these 2 weeks, are focused on characterization. So they should be able to help you improve the characterization in the story that you're drafting. And as a final reminder, the language maybe is a little bit unclear for the class, but each time we're drafting now, you're drafting your complete story. So the narrative arc should be fully realized, your story should be fully realized, and what we're doing from here on out is revising. If you have a pretty complete story and you're at like 2,500 words and you're like, well, what do I have to revise? Plenty, I promise you. And actually, what happens is I'll download all your papers this time and I'll run the comparison tool for your next one to see what kind of changes and risks and tries you're making. So now is your time to, really get in and stir up that story. And you may feel like you ruin it. Don't worry, you can go back to the other version. But now is the time to experiment and try new things and try to make this story better in ways that, you don't know if it'll work. Maybe you'll change the point of view or tell if it's, past tense or present tense. Those are really big changes, and you may not want to make that big a change, but do some things to really make that story spark and come alive. And I'm looking in module 6, when I start grading in module 7, I'm really looking to see what did you do to make a big effort to change and improve your story. Even if it didn't need much change, all of us who are writing and trying to publish do huge experimental moves just to see if something else emerges from the story. So now is the time, the module 6 writing that you're starting on Monday, now is the time to really play with your story and make it something new. Okay, I'm going to stop share and then I'm going to stop recording. You can find the prompts in the description and just give yourself a 5-minute timer and write like crazy. And there'll be 4 prompts so you can have up to 5 different options when you do it. I still recommend being as compressed as 5 minutes. Everybody who was at Birchbark Editing's Mix and Meet this last time, I think we did 6 minutes there, and they're like, there's something about that compressed time that makes magic happen. So use the compressed time to your advantage. Okay, stop record.